Hi guys, welcome to another video. Hope you're all keeping well. For this video, I thought I'd do a list of 20 of my most boring horror movies. Now, if you're familiar with my videos, you will know that there are a few certain movies which I have talked about quite extensively, which I have not been too keen on, and that's putting it mildly. However, for this video, I thought I'd discuss other equally boring movies which I've not really touched upon in previous videos. So obviously there may be a few in this list which might surprise you. Some you might agree with me on, some you might not. It's all a matter of personal opinion there, really, isn't it? But as I always say, these are just my own, personal choices. Okay then, guys, enough of my nattering on. So without further ado, let's just get straight into it. And we will start with number 20 on my list of boring horror movies. Oh, by the way, these are in no particular order. They're just 20, I just selected 20 of, my most boring horror movies. I said in no particular order, no top 20 or anything, yeah. All right then, so let's start with number 20. Number 20 on my list is Jeepers Creepers. Now, released in 2017, this movie, in my opinion, is the worst of the Jeepers Creepers, trilogy. I found it to be a total and utter bore fest from start to finish, with a crap storyline and an equally crap lineup of characters to boot. So there you go, guys. That's number 20 on my list of 20 most boring horror movies, and that is Jeepers Creepers. Oh, you know what? I feel drowsy even just thinking about it. Number 19 on my list is The Bye Bye Man. Now, released in 2017, this soporific piece of garbage tells the story of a laughable supernatural entity called, surprise, surprise, The Bye Bye Man. I soon became so bored with this movie that I wanted to say bye-bye to The Bye Bye Man and switch off my telly. So there you go, guys. That's number 19 on my list, and that is The Bye Bye Man. Number 18 on my list is Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. Released in 2009, this is without doubt the worst Halloween movie in the whole franchise. And I know that there are countless other Halloween fans who would echo my sentiments here. I especially hated the dream sequences of Deborah Myers on the white horse, both of which were just silly, So there you go, guys. That's number 18 on my list, and that is the utterly dreadful sequel to Rob Zombie's Halloween, and that is Halloween 2. Number 17 on my list is Don't Breathe. Released in 2016, this tells the story of a group of 3 Detroit delinquents who break into the home of a blind man with disastrous results. I don't know about disastrous results. The movie itself is a complete disaster from start to finish. Drawn out, boring, and generally just a pain to watch. And I must say, for somebody supposed to be blind, that old guy, he certainly didn't seem to have much difficulty chasing after the 3 intruders. So there you go, guys. That's number 17 on my list of boring horror movies, and that is Don't Breathe. Number 16 on my list is Jacob's Ladder. Released in 1990, this tells the story of an American infantryman, Jacob Singer, who returns home from the Vietnam War and starts experiencing weird hallucinations and flashbacks. The movie's main fault for me was its disorienting leaps of logic and structure, faults which I always abhor in horror movies. So there you go, guys. That's number 16 on my list, and that is Jacob's Ladder. Number 15 on my list is Lights Out. Released in 2016, this tells the story of a young woman who must confront her childhood fears to protect her brother from a malevolent supernatural entity. Now, I was so bored with this movie that I literally just wanted to switch the lights out on us and go to bed. Pardon the pun. If you don't need sleeping tablets, just watch this movie to make yourself fall asleep. So there you go, guys. That's number 15 on my list, and that is Lights Out. Number 14 on my list is Rings. released in 2017. This is the third instalment of the Rings trilogy. Now, unlike the first two, Naomi Watts is not in this one. And for me, that's just one of the failings which dragged this movie down to the depths of utter garbage. Nowhere near as entertaining and as gripping as the first two films. That's just number 14 on my list, and that is Rings. Number 13 on my list is The Tomb of Ligeia. Now, released in 1964, this Roger Corman picture was a huge disappointment to me, especially considering the fact that I am a huge Vincent Price fan. You know, I just thought that he was wasted in this movie, as the storyline was so slow and dull, and you know, there was far too much talk in it for me, not enough action. In fact, I'd even go as far as to say that this is one of the worst Vincent Price movies I've ever seen in my life. I expected so much from this movie, guys, but got so little. So there you go, that's number 13 on my list, and that is The Tomb of Ligeia. Number 12 on my list is The Nun. Holy monasteries, what a complete and utter bore this movie was. Released in 2018, this movie is a kind of spin-off prequel to The Conjuring 2. And it basically, you know, tells a story, if you can call it a story, of a Roman Catholic priest and a nun who uncovered an unholy secret in 1952 Romania. Real bore fest this. So there you go, number 12 on my list, and that is The Nun. Number 11 on my list of 20 most boring horror movies is The Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires. Released in 1974, this is a surprisingly dull film for Hammer, who of course usually produce some fantastic horror films, and as you know, I'm a huge Hammer fan. But this one, I hate to say, guys, it was definitely one of their worst. Now, what I especially hated about it was the way, you know, the way they mixed in the vampire mythos with kung fu, a genre which bores me at the best of times anyway. The blend of, in the words of Carl Douglas, who made the kung fu fighting record in 1974, the ancient Chinese art and Dracula just seems so incongruous to me. And as for the guy who played Dracula, well, he was not a patch on the great Christopher Lee. Even the presence of the equally great Hammer stalwart Peter Cushing couldn't save this film, guys. So there you go, number 11 on my list, and that is The Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires. Number 10 on my list is Lamb. God, was this slow. Oh, it was slow. Released in 2021, this ineffable borefest tells the story of a childless couple who discover a mysterious newborn on their farm in Iceland. Too much talk in it, scant horror, and with one of the most unbelievable, ridiculous, abrupt endings I have ever seen. I immediately herded Lamb off to eBay. So there you go, number 10 on my list, and that is the dreadful, dreadful Lamb. Number 9 on my list is Demons of the Mind. Again, just like The Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires, this was another very disappointing movie from Hammer Studios. Released in 1972, this tells the story of a physician who discovers that two children are being kept, you know, virtually imprisoned in the house by the father. He investigates and discovers a web of sex, incest and satanic possession. Yeah, an extremely dull and slow-paced movie, guys, and one so out of form, you know, in terms of the otherwise traditional greatness of Hammer. That is Demons of the Mind. Number 8 on my list is A Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child. Released in 1989 and the 5th installment in the Freddy Krueger saga, this tells the story of the pregnant Alice, who finds Freddy Krueger striking through the sleeping mind of her unborn child, hoping to reborn, you know, into the real world. Now, this movie marked, sadly, yet another downward spiral, you know, of the Krueger character, as he was, you know, he was fast becoming more like a stand-up wisecracking comedian, rather than remaining as a truly menacing horror character he was in the first two films. Now, as far as I'm concerned, guys, when they started diluting the, you know, the horror elements of Freddy in favour of making him more facetious, that's when they completely ruined the character for me. So there you go, guys. That's number 8 on my list, and that is A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5, The Dream Child. Number 7 on my list are John Carpenter's The Fog. God, guys, this was the real bore fest, and definitely one of Carpenter's worst movies. Released in 1980, this agonisingly slow movie tells the story of a strange, unearthly fog that rolls into a small coastal town exactly 100 years after a ship mysteriously, sank in its waters. Now, I found the ghostly pirates in this movie to be totally unscary and at times quite pathetic, if I'm honest with you. In short, it's a movie that I found very, very difficult to watch right through to the end, as that's how much it bored me. So there you go, number 7 on my list, and that is The Fog. Number 6 on my list is Fright Night Part 2. Now, released in 1988, this film was nowhere near as good as the first Fright Night, and it's definitely one of the worst horror sequels I've ever seen in my whole life. Paling in comparison to the brilliance of the first film, this Borefest continues the story of Charlie Brewster, who is now a student and who encounters a group of vampires led by a beautiful woman who is seeking him out. Even the return of the late great Roddy McDowall did nothing at all to lift this terrible, terrible sequel. So there you go, that's number 6 on my list, and that is Fright Night Part 2. Awful, awful sequel. Number 5 on my list is Insidious 2. Released in 2013, this again was nowhere near as good as the first film. It continues the story of Josh and Renee Lambert, a husband and wife who seek to uncover the secret that has left them dangerously connected to the spirit world. A once only watch was enough for me, guys, for this dire sequel. So there you go, number 5 on my list, and that is Insidious 2. Number 4 on my list is The Blair Witch Project. Now, I know this movie, does have its fans as well as its haters, but I'm afraid that this did absolutely nothing for me. And I do actually blame this movie for spawning this deluge of found footage movies which we've had to suffer over recent years. Released in 1919, it follows the exploits, if you can call them exploits, of a group of students who decide to go into the Maryland backwoods to uncover the mystery behind the Blair Witch incidents. However, they lose their map and things take an unexpected dark turn. Really, guys, a total bore fest in my opinion from start to finish, and one of the most overrated horror movies I've ever seen. That is number 4 on my list, and that is The Blair Witch Project. I've never been a great fan of found footage movies anyway. Number 3 on my list is the 3rd instalment in the Evil Dead saga, and that is Army of Darkness. Released in 1992, this continues the story of Ash, the main protagonist of the first 2 movies in the franchise, who is accidentally transported back to 1300 AD, where he must retrieve the Necronomicon and battle an army of the dead so he can return home. I did not like the idea of them transporting the character, back into a kind of medieval battle setting. And really, to be honest, I would have much preferred the story to be kept in the modern day. The worst movie in the whole Evil Dead franchise, in my opinion, and that is Army of Darkness. Number 2 in my list of 20 most boring horror movies is The Witch. Just like The Blair Witch Project, this is another hugely overrated movie, in my opinion. Released in 2015 and set in the 1630s, this borefest tells the story of a Puritan family who encounter satanic forces in the woods beyond their New England home. Now, I did give this movie another watch just to see if it would grow on me, but sadly it didn't, I'm afraid to say, and I don't think I will be giving it a 3rd watch. So there you go, that's number 2 on my list, and that is The Witch. Right, finally we come to my final selection on my list of 20 most boring horror movies, and that is Saint Maud. Oh my day, guys. Oh my days, guys. Did this movie bore me to sleep? In fact, I'm feeling drowsy just thinking about it. It really, really did bore me. I absolutely hated it. Released in 2019, this load of celluloid rubbish tells the story of living nurse Maud, who arrives at the home of Amanda, a famous dancer, now frail from illness and trapped in her grand isolated house. But Maud is not all that she seems. She's tormented by a violent secret and trapped in she's tormented by a violent secret from her past and by ecstatic messages she thinks are from God. Now, she becomes convinced she's been sent to Amanda, not simply as a nurse, but to serve some kind of divine purpose. Now, as she loses her grip on reality, Maud's care turns into a deadly mission to save Amanda's soul by any means necessary. Yeah, as I say, guys, this movie was so slow and dull and generally boring, and it was yes, another one that I've struggled to watch right through to the end. Not just one of the most boring horror movies I have ever seen, but honestly one of the worst, and I mean the worst movies of any genre I have ever watched in my whole life. Avoid this film like the plague. So there you go, guys, that is the final movie on my list of the 20 most boring horror movies, and that is Saint Maud. Okay, guys, that concludes my video of 20 most boring horror movies. What's your most boring horror movies? Leave your choices down below. Be very interested to hear what they are. Do you agree with my own picks, all the movies I've listed in this video? Is any what you like, any what you dislike? Again, leave your comments down below. Be very interested to hear from you. Yeah. Okay, guys, well, thanks for watching. I really enjoyed doing this video of the 20 most boring horror movies. Of course, they're just the tip of the iceberg, because as you know, you've been watching my videos, there's loads and loads of horror movies I absolutely hate. But as I say, some of the ones I picked there might surprise you, which I've never mentioned before. So as I say, hope you enjoyed it, and the usual, please feel free to share, subscribe, comment, and all going well. I'll talk to you all again very, very soon. Take care now. Bye.